Okay, so today we have exercise 10. We will learn how to draw basic shadows of basic objects. And after that, I will show you here some examples with some other techniques that you can apply. And also, we will talk a little bit about hatching in design. So when you want to draw a shadow in design of an object, what is the correct technique? But now, shadows that basically come from a light source. So there is a light source, either natural or artificial, and they shine on an object, and we create a shadow. So what is the rule for drawing that? Okay, now we will draw these three objects: a cube, circle, it could also be a sphere, a three-dimensional sphere, and this object which has an opening here and has a little bit more complication. Now, we have the horizon line, because we have the objects in two-point perspective. We have a light source. Okay, this is the light source. It's a natural light source. So, for example, the sun, okay, shining at objects and creating shadows. Now, depending on where this light source is located, okay, and how high or how low is it located from the horizon, the shadow will look different. So if I draw this here, this light source here, or here, or here, or here, every time the shadow will be different, okay? Now, the higher up it is, the light source, the shorter the shadow. The lower the light source, the longer the shadow will be, okay? So, let's see what is the rule. So we have a light source. You choose the location, okay, where it's going to be. And we have a light source vanishing point. Like we have two vanishing points for the perspective, we have light source and light source vanishing. So, now I will take a ruler and see how the shadow will look according to my chosen light source. So, now every object has corners. Now we said that no matter what you draw, even if it has circles, parts of circles, it is initially have straight lines, okay? Straight lines with corners, okay? So every object you start like this or with another type of cuboid. So even this circle, as you can see, we have the square around it. So this is very important, okay? Now we have here the corners. Corner, 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 here, here, here. Okay, these are the visible ones. Now what we need is the frontal that are basically closest to us. So this is important, this, and this. This one at the back, not important, okay? So we need to focus on the frontal corners. Let me take this one, okay. Now, we have upper corners and lower corners. Now, the upper corners, we will put straight lines from the light source passing through these, okay? So where is the light source? We will put passing through what? The upper three corners. Now, some objects will have much more corners, okay? This is a cube, very simple object. It has just three upper corners. This one, no, we don't need it. Now, we draw the line as long as possible because we don't know how much we will need. Again, from the light source through this corner. And what's the other one? This one, the last one. From the light source now, we said that when we have a light source, when we put a straight line down to the horizon line, we have a light source vanishing point. This light source vanishing point, we will draw straight lines through it, through these three lower corners. And then we will see where these will intersect with these. Okay? So, from the light source vanishing point through this one. Look, it intersects with this line here. Okay. So, look, we have upper, lower. Now, here we have upper, lower. So, they have to intersect. Each up will intersect with the corner down. So, upper corner, lower corner, upper corner, lower, upper, lower. Okay? So, this here, this line will intersect with this point now that we will take from the light source vanishing point. Okay? So, they intersect here. Okay. Upper, lower, they intersected. Now this one is the last one through this corner. Light source vanishing point. It intersects here. Now we connect them. Okay, we connect these points. This is basically the shadow area. Okay? The shadow area. Now, we need to shadow it. We will shadow it by hatching. This is called hatching, okay? In design, this is how you shadow. You don't draw something like this and then you smudge with your fingers or, no, okay? You just hatch lines, okay? So, we will follow. You cannot start hatching however you like. Follow either this line or this line, but this one is more logic to follow. So if I want to hatch following this line here, okay? So we will have now, as we go towards the object, everybody knows that when you get closer to the object, the shadow becomes more dense, more dark. So here the lines are closer to each other, then becoming more and more and more spread out. Okay? So if the shadow is very long, here they will become spread out. Okay? So this is basically the way you draw. You follow one of the lines and you draw the entire shadow in this way. Of course, as I said, you increase the space as you go along. Now, let us see a circle. How can we draw the shadow of a circle? First, we need to draw the square. We cannot just draw a circle and straight away put the shadow, okay? So, the square has, where is the upper corner? This one and this one. Lower, here and here, okay? So, the upper ones we will take from the light source immediately. Straight lines from the light source, okay, through the upper two corners. So first, what am I drawing? The square. So I'm drawing the shadow of the square, then I will draw the shadow of the circle. So this corner also from the light source, okay? Who is talking? Who is talking all the time? Okay. Now, through the upper two corners from the light source. Now, the lower two corners from the light source, vanishing points. And then we will see where this will connect with this here, and where this will connect with this. So, from the light source vanishing point, through this line, and see where it will here, the two lines intersect. Here the same thing, from the light source vanishing point, and see where they will intersect. This here we will connect. Now, the square, the shadow of the square is this. Okay? Okay? This one with the green. But now, before I start shadowing it, I don't need the square. This is just the construction lines, okay? I need the circle. The circle is what I need. So, now the circle, as we know, when we construct it, we start with the diagonals, then we will find the 4 points, these 4 points. These 4 points are the important. You see these 4 points? So, this line here is this line. This point is on this line, so it must be on this line as well, okay? And we have this point that should be on this line. This point, it should be on this line. And this point is already on this line, so we don't need to find it. Now, we have these 3 points are considered the upper points. This one, the lower, okay? So, from the light source through which point? This one, from the light source. And we will see where it will touch which line? This line, okay? So wherever it touches, here you mark it. Now, this point from the light source should touch this line. So from the light source, wherever it touches, you mark it. And this point as well from the light source. Wherever it touches, you mark it. Okay? So we have 3 points here, and we have 3 points here. So the circle that I will draw, the shadow of the circle, has to touch these 3 points like it does here. But it will be twisted, elongated. The longer the shadow, the longer the circle, okay? Now this point, we already have it. We don't need to find it. Now let me connect them. They still need to connect in a smooth way, okay? Even if the circle is very twisted. So we cannot have corners even here. So, let me just, here the point, and here the point, okay, that we connected. So, no matter how elongated the shadow of the circle will be, it needs still to have smooth transitions. We can never have corners in a circle. Like, for example, to have this kind of thing. Never, okay, never. So be careful to transition smooth. Now, we will follow this line and do the shadow, okay? The closer to the object, the closer the lines to each other. So make sure they are straight. So these shadows, you draw them with ruler, not freehand, with ruler, okay? And make sure that as these lines get closer to the object, they become closer and closer to each other. As they go away, the space increases between them. Okay, so everything you leave, the square you leave, so I can see how you construct it. And so this is here a circle. It could be a sphere also, three-dimensional object. It will have the same kind of shadow, okay? Whether a circle or a 3D. Now let us try to draw this. So, again, we have what? Upper corners and lower corners. And look, each upper corner has a lower. This one, so later when we connect them, they have to basically intersect. This line with this line, this line with this line. Sorry, this corner with this corner, and this corner with this corner. Now, it doesn't matter where the object is. Part of it above the horizon, all of it down, above, okay, so it doesn't really matter. But it's logical when you draw a natural light source, like the sun, the objects to be either like this or below the horizon, okay? So it can be, for example, a building that you're drawing. That's fine. It can be above. So this is my eye level line. Of course, some objects can be taller. But to draw them like flying up in space over here, like up, without touching the ground, this is not logical, okay? With a natural light source. Okay, so now the light source and the upper points. Through all these upper points, I will draw lines, okay? Again, I will draw it as tall as possible because I don't know how much I will need. Again, the light source through this point. And this point. Now, these two, later I will find, okay? Later. Now, the main, it's like a cube or a cuboid, so that we don't get confused with too many lines at once, okay? So, this and this for now. Now, this needs to connect with this. So, from the light source vanishing point through this point. And we see where the two lines will intersect, the upper and the lower, okay? Now this is the upper point, we already draw a line, so this point here, okay? This point through where the light source, vanishing point, and we see where they will intersect, mark it, okay? The same thing with this. We have the upper point, now we have the lower point. The lower point through the light source vanishing point. And see where they will intersect. Now, before I continue, why do we need these shadows, by the way? Because sometimes when you draw something, it is nice, not always in design you need to put the shadows of the objects, but sometimes it gives more realistic appearance. So if you draw in two-point perspective, and you have a shadow, it will give an extra, appearance of realism. So this is sometimes you need, sometimes you don't need, so objects outside with a natural light source or indoors with artificial light, sometimes you need to draw. So you need to have a basic idea of this. So let's continue. So upper 3 points and lower 3 points, and they connected. Now we will connect them, okay? Before we continue with anything else. Now, so we have all this area here that is the shadow of this object, but we have here an opening. So, how can we find that? Well, this distance, we don't know how much it is. Okay, we have no idea. We have no guideline. Okay, so we need to take straight lines up, straight line up to see where this will intersect. Okay, these two lines here. So this is one way to do it. So from the light source through these 2 points, and see where it will intersect this line, okay? With these 2 points, we put them up to touch this line. And this point as well. Okay. these lines, okay, should basically where this point is here and this point, so we have straight lines that will touch with this point and this point, okay? So we can connect these here, and logically, if you check, they should actually, if I connect this with this, because this is the upper, let's say, and this is the lower. So logically, it should go to the light source vanishing point. So they should meet, basically, okay? If your drawing is correct. Okay. Great. But now we have another problem. So here, this is the opening. Here, all the opening is for as if we have it all open, but we have it only until this point. And we have no guideline to know, again, where is this line going to be located. So one way is we can take this line to here. Where is this line going? To the vanishing point, okay? And we can see where this point is. Now there are more than one way how to find this, but this is one way. So now we have here what? Which line is involved? Basically this line, which is this line, do you see here? So we have the upper point, which is here, and connecting, so the upper point, which is the red line, and the green line is the lower point, upper, lower. Now we want to see where this point is on this line, okay? So this point through the light source, and see where it will intersect this line. Here, okay. Now we can take it that way. Now, this is not the most accurate way, but it's enough to draw a shadow. Nobody will measure your shadow, or because this is also a freehand drawing. But the shadow needs to be logical of the object. So this is one way to do it. Now, where is the shadow that we need to shadow? Because now we have so many lines here. All of these are construction here, lines. Okay, so let me take a ruler here and a pen. So all of this area here will be shadowed except this one, okay? Because this is the opening. So we will follow this line, okay? It's not logical to follow this line for the shadow. This is more logical, so we will follow it. Okay, so I will shadow only the part that we need. It will continue here, of course. Let me do it freehand, but this area here. So all of this area here is the shadow, basically, okay? So if you have an opening and the light comes from behind it, okay, so it will be left open. And when you shadow, you follow, for example, one of the lines, which is logical to follow, and you continue. You don't care about objects getting twisted or other things happening on the way. You follow the main line, okay? Okay. Now, let me tell you another way how to do something, just before we continue. So, we found this line here. Do you remember this line? By extending it. Another way to do it is, maybe it's even better. Do you see these two lines that we created, which is this line here and this line? So this line, So from these 2 points, we took from the light source vanishing point and we intersected this line with them. Great. Now we have these 2 points, they are on the same line. Okay, on the same line. So we can go, this way is even better, from the light source through these 2 points and see where this point will intersect this line and where this point will intersect this line. So from the light source through this point, where it will intersect here. And this point, okay, from the light source where it will intersect this line, and we connect it. Okay? Actually, this is the more accurate way, because everything that any points that lay on the line, first find them. If you cannot find them, then you extend and do this other job. So this is now the space, and this is the shadow area as before. So these are upper points, we consider them to find here. These are also upper points on the same line, and these points are already found, we don't need them. But if we connect these lines, they should go to the light source vanishing point. Okay, so this is the idea. Now, there is many other ways of drawing shadows. Again, it depends on what kind of a light source you have. So I will put you these papers if you want to learn more, okay? But it's the same principle. So we have always upper points, lower points, and the main corners of an object. You cannot draw circles, semicircles, curves before you draw the cube or cuboid, okay? This is your guiding line. So if I want, for example, here to increase the complexity, I can do that, okay? And we will do it in a minute. So I will just show you here a few things. Even here with objects up, okay? So many ideas here for drawing shadows. But if you notice, all of them use very, very similar principles, if you look at them. Now, let's say, okay, we have all of these objects here drawn. We want to add a little bit of more complication. So, for example, here, instead of this line to be straight, what if it was like this? Okay? Looking. So what will happen in this case? So it's not a circle, it's half circle. You see this? We have something like this, but here, okay? So if it's just a freehand sketch, it will be drawn freehand by hand. If you have measurements, you apply the measurements and then draw the shadow. So now we have here, look, we have this here, the square, a square. We need to find the midpoint of it. Now if I was drawing fast by hand, I can just estimate it, you know? But it's better to draw diagonal from here, diagonal from here. Sorry, take the ruler. So these 2 diagonals, to draw them, okay, to see the midpoint, and then take it up and say, okay, here is the midpoint, okay? So, this here will be located here. Now the other 2, I choose the height of it. So it can be half circle, it can be tall, it can be shorter, okay? And it should go to the vanishing point. So this line should go, for example, to the vanishing point. And then, so this is here 1, 2, 3 points. 1, 2, 3, okay? And then I can connect them. For example, okay? Now again, because it's a sketch, I am the one who chooses the height depending on what am I designing, okay? Now this thing, how can we transfer it to here? Similar to what we did here. We have this, for example, half circle, semicircle. We have 3 points. This point should be on this line. Do you see this line? This point should be on this line, located somewhere. And these 2 points on these 2 lines. So, from the light source, through this point, the upper one, and see where it will intersect. Remember, the shadow will not always touch the middle. So this point might be here or here, depending on how the shadow comes, okay? So you need to follow this rule, from the light source through the point where it will intersect. Now, this point through the light source, and see where it will intersect this line. So, here you mark it. Then, this point through the light source, we see where it will intersect this line. And we mark it. Now, we have here this point, and this point. Now, we connect it smoothly, as much as possible. Okay. Now, the shadow, what we need, okay, so this here, the square that you can see here, or rectangle, I would say, it was just a construction to find this, okay? So here, you will not delete it, for example, if you draw such a thing, but the shadow will continue here, here, okay, here. So, if we make the shadow more dense so you can see better, we'll continue here, and so on, okay? So, now, this is the shadow area. So, now this is the shadow area around this object, okay? And this is here only the free area. So, but whatever you draw, it has to start with the basic square, cube, cuboid, so the basic object. After that, you have to identify if you have any semicircles, parts of circles, other kind of complicated details. You never draw the shadow of complicated details before you find the main lines, okay? Because the small details will be on the lines, like we have here, okay? So we cannot draw this before we have this. We cannot, okay? Now, let us put something else here on our objects to make it a little more interesting. So what if we have, on this object, it's like a, have a roof, for example, on top. A roof on top, okay? So what will happen in this case? Now, to draw the roof freehand, we need to do what? So, we need to find the midpoint. So, splitting of the surfaces method, okay? Just find the midpoint. Okay. So, this is the midpoint of this surface. Now, I will put it up. Let me delete these here so we don't get confused by them. So, this is the midpoint of this surface. Now, I will put it up. From here to here, I will decide the height because it's a sketch, So, from this point, let's say this is enough, okay? From this point through this point, I will connect it, make it even shorter, And this will go, of course, should go to the vanishing point, okay? Then this will be connected with this as well. This one becomes hidden from the back, okay? So we don't need it. Now, what if we have this kind of object, and we want to draw the shadow of this here, okay? So, again, we had to start with this here to identify the location. And the center points are very important. You see here this point, and this point. This point is very important because it touches this line, okay? And where is this line in the shadow? It's this line. So this point is on this line. So, this point is a lower point. So we need to take it from the light source vanishing point through it, okay? And see where it will intersect this line, okay? Now, notice that this point is on this line also. So we will continue. We will continue taking it. Okay, we don't know how much we will need. And, okay. So, now we can actually just connect, okay, this point where it will intersect and this point where it will intersect together. And this point, let me see here, this point intersects with this point here, and we have this location. And this point, which is here, going to, okay, yes. And we can just connect them. It's not very complicated. And we can continue with the object. So, yes. So this is basically what it, drawing shadows of objects. Now, when you do your homework, you need to do what exactly? Okay? Without these additions, just a cube, a simple cube, just to understand the method. This one, the circle with the square, okay, of course. This object, you need to draw something else. You cannot copy this, okay? So draw me another object. I prefer with some kind of an opening. So not just a very simple cube or, so some objects that have an opening, just to see how you deal with these points and how you connect, okay? Don't complicate too much. It is now just to understand the idea. Don't put too much details, too much complication. Something simple of this type, but another object. Everyone should have another object, okay? From your head, okay? Start with a cube or a cuboid, and then see what you can modify freehand, and later you draw the shadow. So, this is the idea. Now, the next thing that we will talk about is the hatching technique. If you want to put shadows on the object, so this is here a shadow from a light source, okay? From some kind of a light source. But the object have shadows as well. So if we look at it, for example, this side may have a shadow, this side may be lighter, or this might be darker and this lighter. So it depends on, again, where the light coming from. There is here different sides, and they will have shadows. Now, we will not draw the shadows on the objects here, no, okay? But it is good for you to know how to do. So, in design, we hatch. So it's similar to these examples, which I will show you. So we hatch. If you can notice, there is only lines, you see. There is no smudges with the fingers, no nothing, okay? So, for example, there is lines I can draw at a certain, for example, about 45 degrees. If I want the shadow darker, we can put the lines closer to each other. If you put them closer, it seems like this is darker and this is lighter. There is also something you can add, another lines at 45 degrees, okay? So, this is 45, 45. And then, you can add again lines, and again lines. So, hatching in several directions can create darker shadows. However, you need to use as few lines as possible. If you overcrowd the object, it will become very bad looking. So if I can do it just with one line in one direction, fantastic. And I just vary the spaces, okay, with the lines. This is enough. You don't need to hatch, and make the objects too dark and overcrowded. So this is here. You can look at these examples. Look at this one, for example. Here, another example. Also, the object is hatched. The object is with shadow, but with lines, with hatching, okay? So this is how you should hatch in design. So this is not, you see, this is not a very smooth shadow. It's not smooth. The smooth shadow have one problem. It's very time-consuming to do. So if you draw a sketch, this is a sketch, a hand drawing. There is no measurements on it, okay? Nothing, just an idea. There is no time to draw very smooth shadows. You need so much time, and it's not worth it. So that's why we have the line technique, hatching technique in design, and it's very beautiful with all the line work. If you look at it close up, it's very beautiful. Do you see here the shadow? Very quick shadow. And you can see all the construction lines, everything in the sketch. This is how you should aim at learning to sketch. Okay? Notice these objects. This is here a very fast shadow, like we draw outside the object. Okay? And here are internal shadows. So the object itself have inside of it shadows to show its form, to make it more realistic, but very, very fast way. Not detailed, not smooth shadows, all of these types. Here, very simple example. Okay? Again, objects in two-point perspective with shadows on them, okay? To make them stand out. Very simple, just in one direction, notice, one direction. Here we have two different ones. I want you to notice these details. Not just look and make a picture and then go home and forget about it. Observe what we have here, because this is the basic of sketching, and this is very important, okay? Not only about the shadows, also the drawings, look at them, okay? How they appear, alive, okay? Alive through what? Through the lines. The lines make them alive, nothing else, okay? The lines make the sketch alive or dead. Now, for now we are drawing with rulers, just so that you can keep your drawing a little clean, so I understand how you construct it. But if you're drawing a real sketch, it's going to be freehand, okay? Now, we will put this over there a little later. Now, we have something else today to explain. I will delete this, and we will explain this, because I've seen some of you struggle with some of this idea. It was a previous drawing, so I put you an extra example that I will explain. So for example, some of you struggle how, if you have a cube in the middle, not only how to draw the cube in the middle, but also how to find the heights. So we have here several cubes, and I will explain it now in detail, but I will put it in a new video, this explanation.